Welcome everybody to week 4, halfway there of our 8-week web development for beginners course. Today we're going to cover 3 topics. So that's 3 topics for the price of 1. We're going to cover arrays, loops, and APIs and how we can put them into the applications that we're building right after this intro video. Welcome back, everyone, to week 4. Like I said, we're halfway through to week 8. It's getting sad that we're so far. It's moved so fast, and our time together is almost over. But today we're going to cover a lot of topics: arrays, loops, and APIs. So I actually pinged in the chat here, and I'm going to show that. I just want to see where everyone's joining from. Normally, I ask if this is like your first time or your third time, but I know who's been here before because I've seen some familiar faces. But I want to know, we're going to talk about APIs today. So have you actually used an API before? So let's see what we got from the responses. So Natalia says uses APIs all of the time. I didn't code the API. So yeah, that's a good distinction. Many people can use an API. You can go search your favorite service, it's the API, and you will find an API probably publicly available, hopefully, that you can use. But actually coding the API is another skill in itself. We won't cover that today. We're going to talk about using the APIs, but those are 2 distinctions that I think are a really good point. And Natalia is joining us from Tel Aviv. Nice. Kenny J. So Kenny J is using API for ChatGPT, very, very popular API at the moment. So yeah, that's also really cool, right? I mean, you can do all of this really cool AI work without actually needing to be, AI experience or machine learning engineer or data scientist, all through the power of using APIs. So it's really good to be able to use APIs efficiently in a good way. And hopefully by the end of the session, you will at least be more comfortable with that. Cool. Hello, QZ. Never used API before, so today is your big day to start using APIs. And Steve, a regular on the show. Let's see. I always forget to slow my video to 1 point for these live ad streams. Only remember when Corey looks like he's auditioning for a 70s karate movie. I'm not sure what that means, but now my screen has frozen, so you maybe can hear me, but maybe we've already entered into a dangerous zone of technical difficulties. Let's see if we can sort that out. But while you wait for me to sort that out, feel free, yes, let me know if this is your first time joining us, second time, third time. Steve's been here, I think, almost all of it, so 4 times for Steve. I'm going to put him down for that at least. But yeah, let's see. Cool. Yeah, you can hear me. Great. So I'm going to do this on one screen. Normally I can do this multiple times, but my screen has just like completely died. Oh, Mugatu. Wow, put in a just basically made an API request in the chat. That's nice. That's a good touch. I like that. Yes, way out from Stockholm, lovely. Fort Lauderdale, great. And Clarissa, yes, Spotify API, very popular API. I've seen a lot of great projects built on that. So enough about that. Let's get into it. Let's see what we're actually going to do today. So let me see if I can do this skillfully without you seeing me, looking at you, because that's kind of awkward. But let's see. If I add this to the stream, yeah, you could see that. I don't want that view. Okay, there we go. That's not skillful. But now you could see, hopefully, the presentation. Let me see. Someone confirm that you can see the presentation, because I can't see the chat. And now I'm kind of operating blindly for a little bit. Yeah, but I will come back to you in the chat, and I will stop sharing things, and we can chat it out as well. So like I said, week 4, I'm going to do 3 things like I do every single week. I'm going to talk to you about the course really quick. Then I'm going to cover this week's topics and then the generally next steps. I'm going to do this quicker than I have ever done before. Every time I try to get a little bit faster. So let me see if I can drop this link. So basically, I like to say no stress here. I'm going to show you some code, maybe some resources to get started on. And I know what it's like to be on the other side of this camera or the stream, and like you see things on my screen. You maybe want to copy paste code. You maybe want to copy paste links. Well, you don't have to stress about that. I've put this all on this little page here. I'm going to drop that link into the chat. I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to try to revise my second screen on the stream. So this might get a little weird as well. Let's see. Did we go the other way? No, you're not even going to let me switch desktops. Oh, that's great. Oh, here you go. Let's see. Okay, stop. Okay, so let's revive the screen here. Perfect. You can see it. Thank you for that. I'm going to try to bring my second screen in because I want to see what you guys are asking while you ask it, and not like, after I'm done or whenever I feel like looking at you. Okay. Second screen is back on. All right. Looking good. All right. Let's see. Now I need to go back to my full screen presentation. This is all live. So people who watch this on the video on demand, you can skip these parts of me struggling with my screen. All right, cool. So that is, we're back on. Let me drop that link in the chat for you because it's hard to do that. It does say week 1. I always say I was really lazy and I did not put the same link. So it's all, so what you'll see is on that page is, I'm going to spam this twice because I spelled the resources wrong. You will see on that page the last 3 weeks that we spent together. We did data types, functions, if statements. So we did 3 of those things, and you'll see some of that code today as well. So we did those as well. You will see also lessons. We have different lessons attached to this thing every week that are good to finish or to kind of apply your learning. And that is what I talk about when we talk about continued learning. I'm going to show you some code. We're going to cover some of the concepts. I can't cover everything. We normally have an hour here together, so it's not going to be like you're going to be API master after this. But hopefully you learn some things. Again, you can use this resource. Microsoft Learn is completely free to apply your knowledge or to further your knowledge. It's always good. I'm going to do a karate theme just because Steve said so. Like I think it's like katikas. Somebody correct me, but it's a theme in martial arts where you practice something daily. I want go in the chat and please let me know what I'm talking about. Katakanas, something like that. So this is a way you could do some daily practice on APIs and arrays and loops. Hello, Crypto Uni. Here we go. We're gonna blow some minds. Great. Katas. Thank you. There we go. I'm gonna give you some credit. So Steve got kata. Thank you. Katas, Crypto Uni, and Kenny J. Kata. So Katas, yes. There we go. Next thing we're going to do, we also build together. So I've put together this, let's see if we can find it, this lovely group here of matchmaking. So I have this page, and that's going to be also linked onto that main link page where you can write your name, your experience level, local time zones, things like that. We have this time together when we are doing the stream, but it's great to learn together. That's a great way to learn web development. So people have, graciously offered their information, their name, where you can find them. I've tried to link people together where you, if you're in the same time zone, the same experience level, but do check this page out. It's got all the details. Let's see, we got a few people from last time. CTI Guru. Oh, some questions. Oh my God, I didn't answer your questions, CTI. I'm going to get to that. Abdul Shahid from Scarborough. Nice, Ontario. So yeah, you could, click people. So if they're in your time zone, add them a LinkedIn, maybe build something together. It's a great way to learn and build your skills, especially for people who are trying to learn together. But if you don't like learning together, you can also compete. So you can learn together. We can also compete. We have this Cloud Skills Challenge. It's an 8-week challenge. If you go to that link is also available on the links page. Again, I'm not selling you anything that is not true. So that you can go there and you can look at all of the 8-week lessons and compete against each other of who can finish the fastest or compete against yourself to actually push yourself to finish something. Because I know when learning web development, it's hard to stay consistent. So if you have something that says like, oh, you're 60% there, 80% there, give you some motivation. Here's the motivation I can offer you. If you finish 100%, you get a nice little gold medal. So we have a few people that even I think almost up to like week 2, these people are 100% done with the course, or at least the lessons of the course, obviously. Yeah, big shouts out to all of them. But I also want to congratulate a few more people who've kind of moved up into the 75% marker. So we're technically at 50%. So if you're 50% now, doing a great job. But if you're at 75%, exceeding expectations. That's what we like to say on all business reviews. So Z, Dishgraf, I'm hopefully not butchering it. Sarah M, 75%. Yurkis, also great. And then we have some good 62.5. So I'm not, again, I don't do the exact math. I think maybe that's like you've done 5 of them, I assume. Christian B, Darush F, and Jimmy F. So thank you all. And again, if you want to compete or you want to push yourself, like I said, to do this work, get this 8 weeks. So you can at least say I've done 8 weeks of web development. Because what I find is a lot of people are restarting when they join this course. So they've tried to learn before. This is a good way to stay consistent and stop restarting. But this is your last time to learn web development. So about this week, we got 3 things to do. Hopefully we finish them all again in an hour. We're going to look at arrays, loops, and APIs. We've looked at arrays before when we looked at the data types, different array methods that we can kind of sort, we can map, we can filter. I think we've done it for like past 2 weeks. But I put these 3 together because I think there's a good reason. Like I said, APIs is probably my favorite part of web development, but they can be really great, right? You can get information and data and really like bring your application to the next level of what you thought was possible. Because like, oh, instead of me building a music player and having a whole bunch of playlists and all that, I can just loop into the Spotify API, and now I have the user's playlist, and then I can do that information really great, like something new and innovative with that data. So APIs allows us to unlock all of that in our web applications, but they can also be very frustrating at times. And I think this is my own personal theory. You can let me know in the chat, like what problems you've had with APIs before. I mean, there's other problems like with specific APIs, but yeah, if there's anything that like you've struggled with working with APIs, put them in the chat there. We can probably do a therapy session together. But for me, at least, what's tricky is sometimes I'm just like not that great at working with arrays and loops. And they're really important, I think, especially when you look at our code examples we'll talk about today, of working with those 2 things, because they allow us to get the data that we get from the API, and then we put them into how we actually want to use that data. So arrays and loops that's why I'm making this connection. Let me know if I don't make this connection at the end of this, but hopefully I've done that. Cool. Let's see, Mugatu, you got something to say. I like TypeScript in order to shape the data response from the API. Yes, I agree. We won't do any TypeScript today, Mugatu. I'm sorry. But that is a good way. So with TypeScript, you can also kind of shape, or you kind of set expectations of what you get back with the API, so you can shape that response essentially, and it makes it a lot cleaner response as well, working with the data. Yeah, promise-based APIs. Yeah, that is also tricky. So we're going to talk about promises as well. So if you've never heard or have no idea what Crypto Unity is talking about, today is your day to finally realize the pain and the horror. Okay, great. So arrays, loops, and APIs. We're going to start with arrays first and how they kind of relate to what the work we're going to do with APIs. So arrays, we're gonna, like I said, we've done some things around filtering, for each, which I'll talk about as well later. We'll talk about loops, mapping, but the one thing we're going to talk about today is spread operators. I'm gonna quiz the chat because I like to, but like, okay, for anyone who knows what a spread operator is, go ahead and type the spread operator syntax into the chat. This should be interesting. So I'm not gonna spoil what a spread operator looks like, but like just type it in the chat. I want to see this. Oh, hey Z, Z's here. Z at 75%. I think that's the same Z. I don't know how many Z's we have. But yeah, type. What does a spread operator look like? Dot, dot, dot. So we got a couple, right? Dot, 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 arc. Nice. We got the always on point. Dot, dot, dot. Yes. And I think that's the weirdest. I think it's the weirdest thing in programming, this dot, dot, dot. Because obviously, like before we had like chat and all that, we had this dot, 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 and it's like the thinking. So I think it's like, I don't know, to put that in a program, dot, dot, dot. It's like, wait, are you thinking of something? I don't know. But that's correct. That is what we are doing with this. So this is like an example here, and I'm going to put this more in when we look at the code examples, explain it. But it's this dot, dot, dot. That's the syntax for spread operators. So if you ever seen that and you have no idea what that is or what that is doing in a JavaScript application, we're going to explain that really well now. So basically what it does, and this is getting really in simple terms just because I want to make sure this course is beginner friendly as much as possible, is that this is going to basically look at the values that are in any sort of variable. So in this case, we have this band2, dot, dot, band2. We don't know right now what kind of variable it is, but let's say it's an array. So it's going to say, okay, there's different values in this array, and we want to do something to each of those values. So we can do like expanding the values. We can like, if we want to like grow them or add them to another array, for example, we can do that. We can copy them. So for instance, like we have this dot push, band1 dot push. So as we know from other lessons, dot push is we're adding something to an array. So in this case, we're adding this band1 or this band2 to that. So we can copy the values. Again, if we need that, we can also concatenate like we do with strings. So let's say we want to combine two arrays. That's a good way to do that with these spread operators. So let's see that in action. Let me see if I can find my VS Code, because now when my screen died, that did not help my setup. All right. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Let's close Thunder Client for now. So I have these two arrays. Band1 is AJ, Kevin, Brian, Howie, Nick. And band2 is Justin, JC, Lance, Chris, Joey, and let's say we want to combine these two. And I had a music group last workshop last week. And that was pretty easy to decide with band name. So I want to see in the chat if you can recognize these two bands. Who are these people before we actually show the code or code running? I want to see who's AJ, Kevin, Brian, Howie, Nick. What band is that? And who's Justin, JC, Lance, Chris, Joey? What band is that? So we got two bands here. While I wait for some good answers, I'll tell you what the code is doing. So we have this band2. So again, some arrays, and let's say we want to combine them instead. So I can have this band1. I want to actually not combine them, but I want to include band1 into band2. So if I want to, let me make sure I have everything else commented out. I've done that dot dot the spread operator, and then band2. I'm going to go ahead and print that out. So with some luck, what you'll see is I have Justin, JC, Chris, Joey, AJ, Kevin, Brian, Kevin, Brian, Nick, Howie. So it's all including that now. So we have one array, and this is the formatting is making it look really strange because it's not just on one line. But you can believe me, that's what's going on. Now, let's say instead, let's see if I'm going to comment this out. Okay. But I could do a couple of other things, right? I can also push this into an array. So I could just take this array band1 and then instead of just like including the array, so this case, band2 includes this one. So they're not, these are one separate array. This is another separate array. But let's say I want to actually push band1, so I could actually include that in there, but so not like just at the initiation or when we defined it. But let's say I have 2 API requests and I want to have one array with 2 different values, or both all of the values. I can do that. So I have this const band1, band2. I'm going to push this in there, and I'm going to print out band1. So similar result, but what's important here is to show here that like band2 doesn't automatically include or when we define it band1, but later on, and this is going to be important, like I said, when we're talking about APIs, because hey, sometimes we need to put these in arrays or how they're doing there, and this like now gives us the ability to have 2 separate arrays, but when we want to include band1 or band2 and band1, we can do that. We have that flexibility. Cool. Let's see if anyone got any of these right. So yeah, Joshua, Backstreet, and NSYNC. That's ding, 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 right? BS Boy. I've never seen BS Boys described like that, but I like that. And this is the classic question. This is, I always try to like not have a theme I use the default because you always get the question, but this is a dark orange theme for you, Aldo. Dark orange is what it's called. I like it. I like this black orange. My whole setup is black orange, kind of Halloweeny. Cool. So that is that example. But like Steve had mentioned, let's create a super band. Let's do it. So one way that we would think that we could do this is like this. Let me uncomment this out. All right. So I got this super band I want, and this give me band 1 and band 2. So separated by a comma here and print out super band. It's the best. It's going to be the best boy band ever. It's going to be 10 people on the stage or whatever memory, and it's going to be really chaotic. So, I commented out my definitions. Classic. Got it. So now look what we have here. So we have this array, and like we kind of defined here, we have this comma between it. So we don't actually have one array. We don't have one super band. So basically, if you want to make this a band, we'd have like 2 stages of people. Maybe it's like a battle of the bands, and they're competing against each other. But so they're on 2 different stages, but we want them to be on one stage. So we need to make sure that we have this band on one stage. So one array, if you will. So let me comment this out. Let's do this properly. And this is how we do it properly, or what we want this to achieve, is that we can actually use the super band and the spread operator for both of these arrays, right? And that's going to combine them, hopefully, to one super band. So different to this one where we have this comma, so just 2 arrays in one array. If I go ahead and print that out, look at that. It's the super band of everybody's dreams. Right here, right now. Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. So that is with arrays. Again, another thing we're going to work with a lot today with APIs is objects. And we can actually do some spread operating on that as well. So I'm going to show you that. I got this spread operator, and I have this object, or 2 objects. And member name is Justin. Cool to have Justin. Const band position is the lead star. And if you don't think Justin is the lead star of NSYNC, let me know in the chat. But I'm pretty sure it's undebatable that Justin Timberlake is the lead star of NSYNC. So now we could do this, right? Let's say we have these 2 objects. We want to actually combine them into one called band member. So let's say we have maybe this is coming from different APIs, different areas in our program, and we need to then also bring this into that. So let's say we're going to go ahead and go do it, right? Okay, so now we have band member, and we have this name, band position, and let's have one actual object of this. So let me make sure everything's commented out. Great. So now one object, Justin, position, lead star, and we could access this. We could, I think, destructure. We could find things out there and use this one object based on that. So again, spread operators really useful and really going to be very important when we talk about when we get data from an API, because maybe we want to um, combine them, print them, show them to the user in different areas. So that was enough for about that for now. Again, this is going to come up almost all the time, so we'll continue to build on that. But the next thing we're going to talk about is loops. And let me see if I can zoom out. I just like deleted that. Oh, there it's back. Cool. So loops. When I learned loops the first time, and this was like Java Visual Basic days, it was like super scary to be like, oh, okay, loops. You got to make sure when you use loops, like use them with caution, because your computer could like blow up basically if you don't if you don't close your loops. You have infinite loops. I don't know if that's true anymore. Obviously, you have crashes, and in web development, I think it's like the worst. Maybe it's like a browser tab crashes, and you just close it and restart. Yeah, but yeah, loops are very important. We use them quite often in web development, especially again when we want to execute code over something. So again, if we tie back to arrays and objects and how we're kind of connecting all of this, just the theme today, loops are going to be super important. So we have like three styles of loops: while, do while, and for loops. We're going to talk about today. I'm sure there's probably like a few other niche loops. I don't know. So we have while loop first. So while has a condition, right? So something needs to be met or something should be matching. And while that is true, do this. It's basically what while loop is. So it's probably the most simple of all loop types. Doesn't mean that it's not effective or you shouldn't use them. I don't think they're, if I look at code bases, maybe like for loops are more popular, but while loops are there, they're being able to access them as well. Cool. And then we have do and while. So do is basically saying, do this thing while this is true. And I'm gonna do a little quiz to the audience because I love all your participation. What is actually the difference? So tell me what the difference between a while loop and a do while loop is. Again, do this thing while this is true. While loop is like while this is true, do this thing. That's some little tips. But there's a key difference in why you would probably use one or the other, and I'm going to show that in the code later on. So I'll prove those differences. But yeah, let's see what's the difference other than like the syntax, right? There's a do and there's a while. And the other loop that we're going to look at is for loop. So for, and I've kind of really tried to make this simple here. It's not like the exact technical terms, but for loop is okay. Start here. Start somewhere as initialization, initialize something. Condition, so some sort of condition that, again, if it's true, keep running this. And I'm going to call this update because I've seen most of it where it's like, we'll see today, like I++, we're increment the right one. And while all this is true, do this thing. We're trying to execute some line of code. So basically, just to kind of loops boil it down. It's like looking at the current world. So the world being your program, the world being the scope of where this loop is performing. Run some code if the condition is true. Keep running that code basically until until this is not true. So this is a stop condition. And then that's basically there's some code in there that it's doing something. So in this case, we're just going to print something out, console.log. But you could do a lot of other things. You get functions within that as well. So it gives you a lot of flexibility and a lot of power within your application. Cool. I see some answers for my question. I'm not gonna expose that yet. I'm gonna let that simmer, let that sit. I think I see some right answers, which I like. But we're going to go into that further. Why do I keep going the wrong way? Okay. So while loops. I've got two variables here. Let me uncomment these bad boys out. So we got students, and I think we might have students somewhere else. Perhaps. Yeah, this is good. This is VS Code at work, everyone. I've already messed up before, embarrassing myself. All right. So while loops. So we have students, so 0. So now we have no students right now, but we have seats, 30 seats. Basically, all you need to know is, okay, while we have uh, less students or the seats, so again, we can't have any more students if we don't have any seats. It'd be really weird standing up. Increment, so the students plus plus increment by 1, and then just print the number of students that we have, basically. So if I run this, now you see this super exciting output, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 30. So, I mean, again, if I want to be super fancy, I could give students a name and everything like that. But again, this is, so while this is true, run this code, and then it stops once it's not 31, which is nice. No one has to stand here this class. So let's see. Now that's while loops again. Probably the most simplest, I guess, of them all as far as like flexibility of loops. We have this do while loop now. So let me comment this out. Okay. So first I'm gonna do this. So I have do. So let student count equals 0. And then I'm gonna say, oh, hello students. And while student count is greater than 10, do that. And I think I got this example right. That's right. So student count is not greater. Student count is 0. And student count, while student count, this is our condition, it still prints it out one time. And that, I'm going to give everyone the credit that they did here. So Natalia says, do code at least one time while do code while the condition is true. So very good points there. Z as well. I think you're on point. Christina, yeah, check before versus after. So this is going to do it one time, right? And then it's going to check, okay, should I do it again? So there's different use cases on why this would be important, but it's really important to know that why you're using them, because maybe you do not want to say hello students, especially if student count is 0, because hey, then you'd be talking to no one. So that is the difference. Because again, if I do this, yeah, comment this out, we probably should get nothing unless I have another print somewhere else. Yeah. So we get nothing. So while is smart saying, I'm not going to run this code until this is true, and it's not true, so I'm not going to run the code. Something that could be easily slipped up on, and something you can watch out on as well. All right. So the next one we're talking about is for loops. This is where it gets exciting, everyone. Everyone excited already. So we have this students. This is an array. Let me take your comment off. And we want to then, let's say we have a couple of ways to implement this, to be honest, because JavaScript has grown up since we started doing JavaScript in 1995. So we have this classic way. You'll see a lot of examples like this, and there's different ways to implement it. So we have this for loop. Yep. So let I, so this is 0, this is our initial state. And until I is less than students length. So again, making sure we have all of the students. I plus plus plus. So again, we're going to increment by I by 1. And then we're going to take the location of the value of that, whichever element is in that array, and we're going to just print it out. This is a classic, right? So we've seen Nick, AJ, Kevin, Brian, Howie. So that's a good one. So again, using the for loop to loop over that. And again, we could do more than just print. We could add a function here or do something. We can make them bigger, capitalized, uppercase. All of that could be possible in there. Here's another question to the audience then. So for loops, that's one way to do this. Let me know, what other way could I kind of like loop over this array, or maybe just print out all of these things. There's a couple of other options. I'm going to show you one now, and hopefully somebody on the chat says the other way, so we don't have to worry. So another way we can do this is this nice syntax. I think this is probably one of the best syntax I've seen in JavaScript. I like it a lot because it's so clear. So we have this for loop. And it says, so take students. Let me make sure this is working because it's kind of like asking me. Yeah, this is working. So for students in students. So take and again, this could be anything. It could be I if you want it to be. But so take all the students. So the student. So again, instead of doing I here, I have this location. And then students, console.log. So again, I get the same result, a little bit cleaner syntax, a little bit clearer on exactly what we want it to do. But there's other ways you could do this. So I see in the chat some great suggestions. Thank you, everyone. Let me comment this out. So my preferred, other than this one, which I really like, is the for each. So I see a couple of, so I see for each. Mugatu does while and for each. Yeah, you could do that too if you wanted to. Map is another option too. But yeah, we're gonna do the third option, which is for each. And this is, people say this is like the more modern approach to it all. So this is like, yeah, it's cool, it's great, and for use cases where this might be important, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with this, but I think this is like kind of really also very readable. So for each student, so students being the array, so for each of them, and we have this function, just print out the student. And without further ado, we get in the same result. So 3 ways we can kind of loop over this array. Choose your favorite, really. I think that, again, like I said, it's been called the more modern approach to this. So this is reteaching modern web development here. Cool. And similarly, we can do this also with loops as well. So, sorry, for objects. So I have this object of student grades, and let's say I want to print out all of the objects, print out all the students. So this one, and then student grades, and then let's say I just want to have the students and the student grades sort of like shown like here, and you could just print out the object if you wanted to, but this gives us more access. Let me save that, go ahead and print that. And now I have Nick, AJ, Howie, Kevin. I don't know who's really the lead. I think Nick is supposed to be the lead of Backstreet Boys. So he's got the best grade. Great. So similarly, same thing, right? We're using a for loop here to kind of go over those things as well. Let's see what's the chat. So Mugatu says you can simplify that callback. Yeah, you can definitely. There's like what's the most amazing thing about web development or programming channels. There's always other ways you can simplify this stuff. I'm trying to get it to a certain point that is still very much readable for people, but there's always ways you can kind of even make things simpler. Okay, so, and there's trade-offs to that as well. So now we can also do, let's say we do an array of objects. So this is going to be really where we connect APIs and what we're talking about loops arrays, because this is classically what you'll get in an API as well, is a lot of arrays of objects. And you need to find out how to get that information to the user, to your application, to another function. So let me make sure I can actually like highlight things. That's the hardest part of programming, everyone. And I know there's a better way to do this, but I'm on my setup right now. I can't do it. So where are we? Let's see. Let me just make this smaller. Okay, comment this out. So we have this array, and don't ask me why. Maybe you could tell me. Maybe I think I know actually now. I don't know why this is like this. Let's see if I can save it now. No, it adds it. Some reason prettier one is like Nick needs to be each line, and so that's why Nick gets this, but everyone else gets a single line. So we have this name, grade, and this is an object. So there's an item in that object, and then this is all in an array. And let's say we just want to like print the names of these people, these students, the Backstreet Boys, or the BS Boys, I think we're calling them now, which I like. So we have this for loop. Again, I'm going to do the for loop method first. And okay, we could do student arrays, dot length. And instead of just doing what we did in the array example, where we just had like I, we also need to get that exact key of that. So we do the syntax where it's student.array I. So we're going to implement find the location by 1 and the name of that student. That's what we're interested in. So we have the student grades. I think that's good. So if I go ahead and print that out, I'll make this bigger again. Great. So now we have just the names. And similarly, we could do just the grades. Let's say we want to do some sorting or something like that. We can do that. And like we did last time, we could do this in different ways. I can do this for each. And I could also like pass in the item and the index, which could be very important when you're trying to find specific items because the index is the exact sort of location with that. So if I go ahead and show you that, what you'll see is I'm printing out this stuff, right? So that's just the object itself. But then I get the index, so index 0. So if I wanted to like say, oh, Nick, I want to put out all Nick's details, I could refer to it with index 0. So that's one way we can do this. But let's say this happens a lot when we're working with APIs. We want to like take what we get from the API, but then we want to push it into another array because let's say we want to either combine these things or later on, pick up the other information. So we could do that. And this is my last array example before we get into the APIs. So hold your horses. So student grades, and I think I have this defined twice, or maybe not at all. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, so yeah. So I have this count student grades, which is an empty array right now. And let's say, okay, I just want to get the grades of the students because maybe I'm doing some analysis on how well the Backstreet Boys are doing in school. That's really important to me. And I have the students array, which I hopefully didn't comment out already. So yep, students array. And I'm going to do for each. So for each student, like we mentioned, I'm going to do this students.grade. So instead of just like printing it out, I have this dot push and student.grade. So I'm taking that grade and then, okay, I'm going to print out the grades of these. So hopefully with some luck, great. It's 90, 80, 70, 60. So again, all of these methods, all of these things are going to be super important to get you more flexible and powerful with using APIs because APIs, they come in, the data comes in this sorts of formats, and you need to sort of iterate over them or find that information and getting comfortable with working with arrays and objects and array of objects. It's going to connect and make your life much, much easier. So let's get back to it then. Let's talk about actually the APIs now. Let me see what's going on in the chat. Yeah, the baby in the back. Yes, I apologize. This is live streaming and I have children. This is live, but they're definitely not worried about me doing this in Rust. I like that humor though. Thank you, Crypto Uni. Cool. Let me see. Now I'm on my screen. Okay, there we go. So there's 3 things we need to do when we talk about working with APIs is making the request. Don't do that. We need to handle the actual response. So once we get a request from an API, a response from an API, what do we do there? And then let's say like using the response, like what do we do with it next? Because that's also very important and kind of tricky, especially if you're getting started, which I know a few of you were never used an API before. So this is going to be great. So there's 2 ways to actually make, maybe there's multiple ways, but there's 2 popular ways to make an API request in JavaScript. It's the fetch API. And I know that might be confusing for some people. Like, why are you saying we're going to use an API to request an API? But in this case, the API part of this is actually built into the language. So we're accessing this ability within JavaScript, as well as an Axios. That's a external package that we have to install. So we use like npm install. Very popular. And you will see whenever you like search for API tutorial or something like that, you'll see either of these approaches taken. At the moment, I would say I prefer using Fetch API, largely because being it built into the language is far better for lighter of approach than having an additional package. And for the sake of this course, we're going to use Fetch API because we're not going to do any npm installs at the moment. I'm not going to get everyone keep doing that. We'll do that later on next week when we do React. But right now, we're going to do that. And the feature parity is about the same. There's some differences. Axios, it handles timeouts better. So we're going to talk about that too, timeouts and why that's important. And also, it's the browser support is a little bit more flexible. It's a little bit more wider. We're talking about web development. Browser support is super important because you don't. If you have users that are using some old version of like Edge, for example, could be a problem. So Fetch API, I'm going to put in the MDN docs. I think there's somebody always on here asking me to put the MDNs, and I haven't done that. I'm going to do that. But you will see in the MDM docs, which is Mozilla's developer, the documentation basically for JavaScript, if you will, the browser compatibility. But Fetch is very simple. You can have the response, which is let the response, and then equals fetch, so a URL. Normally you store the URL in another variable, but in this case, on my examples, I'm just going to put in a URL just so we know what we're working with. But this is like the very simple, very basic. Let's say we're going to take a response and put in the URL, and fetch whatever information that endpoint gets us. And let's see, I thought I had a couple of slides. Yes. So basically what we're doing, and again, this is very basic. If you've already done API requests, but something maybe new for you, if you have not, basically we do HTTP requests. Is how we communicate from the browser, so what we're using, to a server, and the server is essentially how holds that information to us. Yeah. So we have a couple of different methods or ways that the type of request. So let's say we want to get data from somewhere else, and it's an external location. Again, let's say Spotify servers, and we want to get that into the application. So naturally, the world of the internet, they gave us a really good, simple naming method called get. Then we also had data. If let's say we have data from our application, then we want to give it to another location. I'm gonna use location here, but I mean server. We can post it, so like the mail where we post a letter. Also good naming. Thank you, internet people. Then we also have some other ones that we won't focus on today, but we can also delete some data from an external location if we want to. Let's say we're working with a database or something. We can also like replace the data of like the record. So things have records, different things within the database, and we can put them. And then lastly, we have patch, which is not that we replace the whole entry, but let's say a certain part of that. So let's say, is this song played? So I'm really focusing on Spotify API today. To true or false, right? We can patch that request instead of taking that. We have three different type of requests. Three different type of APIs. SOAP, I would say. So if you say, oh, yeah, this is a SOAP API, it's a bit older. We can't use a lot of the methods that we are going to talk about today. REST API is probably still most popular. It's newer compared to SOAP, but it's been around quite often, quite a while. And it's very popular. Most services, I think, are using REST APIs. Now, there's the off chance that you get a SOAP API, you have to use XML, which, again, this course won't be covering. And then Graph, which is newest, so newest compared to them, still now some years ahead, public, is another way. So you might see some services that only use a Graph API. We won't cover that today or in this course. We're going to focus on REST APIs, but just know if you like searching for APIs that you want to use and you see Graph or SOAP, most likely you'll see Graph more than that. And then that is these sorts of things there. And let's see if we got some people here. So crypto, yeah, older, really back in the 2000s we used. Yeah, but you say that, but I actually seen a service I've used very recently, unnamed, that used SOAP. So it's not dead. It's just living somewhere else. Yeah, there's gRPC, which again won't cover that, but that's a good point, Magato, as well. But these are kind of the three top ones. So when we talk about making a request to an API, we need to talk about asynchronous requests. What asynchronous means is that basically in your code, you're going to have some code that relies on or needs to run after the request, after we get some data, something from the API. That's a very simple way to describe asynchronous. So we need to tell the code because in most applications, the like all the code that we've written so far is synchronous. All right, we just run it, we push that big play button, and it just runs. But there's time, especially in API, because there's time where you need to make the request and to get data back. Normally it's really fast, but you could have an API that goes down or really slow because it's getting some requests. So it's not instant. So we need to tell something in our application that says, hey, when you get this data, then you run the code. That's asynchronous. And we have a couple of ways to do that. I think was mentioned earlier. They have, I would say, is the older approach is callbacks. We won't talk about callbacks. I've taught this course before once, and I did all three, like callbacks, async await, promises, and tell me which one you like the most. But I'm not going to cover callbacks. If you're interested, you can find great resources on that. I'm going to cover these two different ways: async await and promises. Now, they're actually one method, but they are written differently because promises or async await is what we call syntactical sugar in the world of coding for promises. So it makes our code more readable, which is very important when one, you're starting out, you want readable code so you know what's going on. And two, when you work with other developers, they know what's going on. Promises is still somewhat readable and very popular. We're going to all use both of them. But that is the two ways we're going to kind of handle the responses. So promises, this is again kind of taken from some of the MDN documents. But let's say we have a promise, then we have this dot then. And then, okay, so once we this resolved, dot then do, so once we get this data, then do this. So we might want to print something, we might want to do something extra that we could chain. This is called chaining. We could do dot then. But then lastly, what's really important, again, when we're talking about the APIs, things break, servers go down, we don't get the right format of the request. And again, that's why TypeScript, whoever, I forgot who mentioned that, I think Mugatu mentioned that, is a great way to clean that up. But then dot catch is basically allowing us to handle any errors, or at least print those errors out. It won't necessarily fix them. And then with async and await, it's a similar approach to if you're defining a function, but basically we use this async keyword in front of the function. So we take the function name and then await. So once this resolves this promise, and a promise, like the name says, is a promise that something's going to happen, we're going to get some data or something, then you do this, which again, then kind of pauses. I don't want to say pause because it sounds dramatic, but it awaits. It waits for this function or the promise to resolve. Resolving meaning we get that data. And what's really nice about async await is, and even though this doesn't show up, but we could do this try catch. So try this function. If it doesn't work, catch the error, which I like, really sports like. And then let's say in this case, we're just going to print the error out. So again, making your you don't want to not do any error handling per se in your API request, because you will get lost and confused on why things aren't working if you don't, because like, oh, you could get these HTTP requests that I showed you. They have these other, and I should have put this in there. So we're growing here. But basically these HTTP requests also have responses to them. They have codes, and we can know exactly what's going on or going wrong. Not exactly sometimes because the error messages aren't that great, but gives us more clues. So if we catch the error and print it or show it to the user or show it to us on our side, it will make things way more smoother. So that's handling it. So let's see what that code looks like. And we're going to go over time. So that's just going to be what we do today. It's a lot of information. So I have this fetch API. And one of my biggest griefs when I was learning JavaScript is that most of the time we get these like API tutorials, examples, and they don't use actual APIs. They use like to-do list or like mock APIs, and they're super clean. The APIs, they're super simple, super clean. The code works, and then when you go into the real world and you try to get your own API using another API. They're super complex. They don't work sometimes. They get throttled, maybe the amount of requests. So I'm using a real API here. It's still a good exercise API. It's this Poke API. I had it here. And basically what it is, as you can guess, is a Pokemon endpoint, Pokemon API where we can get Pokemon information. And while I kind of go through all of this, let me know in the chat who's your favorite Pokemon, or what Pokemon would you be if you were a Pokemon? I want to put that in the chat as a complete distraction. I'm going to tell you who mine would be. Mine is Bulbasaur. So that's the endpoint we're going to use. I like to, as a good practice. So this is nice because I can test this out on the page. It has, let's try it out now. But I always like to test out the API outside of me coding or working with the API. And there's a lot of good tools out there. There's Postman, which I was a big fan of all of the time. I used to use Postman religiously. I still am a fan of it. There's nothing wrong with it. But I found this, another colleague, a friend of mine, put me onto this Thunder client, which is it's a VS Code extension. And it allows you to actually work directly within VS Code. And if I wanted to, this is a bad view of this. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger for you. So I could do a new request. I have some other, and basically it opens up a new little tab here. And let's say what's really cool about this thing here is I can copy and paste this endpoint. So API requests are all done by these endpoints. I could go in and I could drop this in. Yeah, I can click send. And now this will show me the exact, and let me the response again. So I have the status, like I said, is 200 okay. So that means it's good. I have a count. And then, so this is 1,281 Pokemon in this index or this database, if you will. And then it's going to give me some results. So like I said, Bulbasaur that's my Pokemon. Ivysaur, and they have URLs. So I have a better understanding already of what this response will look like. And that's going to save me a lot of time when I'm using Fetch and actually putting this into work, basically into my application. So I always do that. Thunder client, I'm going to add a link in the links page. It's a really nice way. You can use it anything else. You could also, in some APIs, just directly drop it in your browser, but that's probably not the best. So I have this async function now. And it's const response await. So now await this fetch. So this is going to await. So now this is the part that we're going to wait for essentially to make that request. And then also we're going to wait because what we're going to do is take this data, this variable data, and we're going to take the response, which is this, and this is just JSON method here. Basically, even though it says JSON, is converting this JSON, which we get back, into a JavaScript object that we can use later on to do all the object methods that we've talked about in this course. And I'm just going to print this out. So if the API hasn't failed me, and let's see, nothing's happened. Unexpected token, where are we? Where did I uncomment something? Oh, well, first I need to call the function. Thank you, whoever spotted that. I don't know if anyone did, but let me see. But then I don't know. Let's see. Might be stuck on something. Okay, there we go. So now we have this data. It's kind of huge and it's ugly. Also not useful to us, which is this count. And then we have all these results. So we need to make some more sense of this. But this is a good start, right? We made an API request. So if you've never done that, if you copy and paste this code, now you can say the next time someone's asked you if you use an API, you used one. So let's say instead we want to limit the results. So we don't need to have. So what's this API doing is basically, and what a lot of APIs do when they have a lot of them, is they give us this limit. So again, if I had this object coming in, 1,281 Pokemon, take a long time or would be completely useful. So this kind of automatically limits the amount that we have. But let's say, okay, I want to be really smart about this and not, I'm going to limit this even more. So first I'm going to make an array here. Let me comment this out so we don't have any errors. Right. And let me make this smaller for you. I'm going to close Thunder Client. You're taking up too much space, Thunder Client. Stealing my thunder. That's the dad joke for today. So Pokemon data. So now we're going to have this array. And now we're going to also do something smart. We're going to do this try catch. Because if you remember what I said, I didn't do any error handling here. So if I got a 404 or whatever, I just wouldn't know anything. I'd just be in the dark and really concerned. So we're going to uncomment this out first. So async function, we're going to try. So try this line of code. And then we're going to take the await. So the response to similar what we just did. The only difference is now we have this limit 8, meaning we put this in the URL to limit the amount of Pokemon that we receive, which is 8. Then we have Pokemon data equals response, data results, catch. So we're going to catch the error and then console.log the error if it happens, right? So nothing's happening here that we need to print out. So I could run that. It would just work, but that would be kind of boring to see. So let's say instead, now we actually want to show the Pokemon. And what's smart, again, this is why we kind of built up to this point, is that I know I have this name, I have this URL, and it's in an object. It's an array of objects, so in the results. So let's say I want to actually bring that into, or print that out so it's really clean instead of in this object format. So I can uncomment this out and I'll show you what this is doing. So I have this get Pokemon data. And now this is me doing promises. So showing you the difference. So I have .then Pokemon data for each, right? So like what everyone had recommended last time. So I could do this for each. So for each Pokemon, print this out. And we did the string literals here, the string templating, which we did the first lesson. Pokemon.name and Pokemon.url. And then we're going to catch the error if that happens. And let's see if this runs. Oh, look at that. That's clean, right? The name, the URL, and completely useful for us in an application. Let me see if I had any Pokemon. So Snorlax didn't make the list. Pikachu didn't make the list. Nobody made the list. This is all, did anyone do Charmander? No, no one did. Okay. Cool. So we're hitting the hour mark. So I'm just going to drop. I'm going to stay on because we need to do a couple more things. Let me just drop this link for anyone who can't. It's going to drop off later on because this will have the recording as well. So you can follow along again in the future. And again, it's putting the resources wrong. So that's the link. You'll get the recording. But we'll do one more example here of getting the specific Pokemon. So in this case, I want to get only one Pokemon. So we know each Pokemon has this name. And if we test this out, I'm not going to show you. But each Pokemon has their own endpoint URL. So this Bulbasaur. So if I want to get that one, I can go ahead and comment this out. Need to comment this out. Okay. All right. And then so I'm going to fetch that. So it's a new URL. And then, yeah, I can just call this. It's actually less exciting than I thought. So that's one way, again, to kind of work with an API, and you can get really smart and pass this in. What I want to do is actually combine these things. So that's going to be the big, we'll end with that. So basically now I know that there's URLs and names in each one of those things. And now I want to get the data of the Pokemon. So each URL has their own data. And let's say we know that want to know the type of the data, the type of the Pokemon, sorry, and a picture of the Pokemon because we want to make a Pokemon game. So I'm going to give this example and I'm going to bring it all together for you. So we have the Pokemon data. And we're going to do a lot of data. We have a whole React data session, and this is going to all come together. So let me go ahead, uncomment this out. This will be our last grand finale of API requests. So what's going on here? So I have two arrays. Pokemon data, Pokemon list. Two arrays, they're empty at the moment. I'm gonna have one function, async function, like we said. That's what we do to use this API request. I'm gonna have the response come in. So again, I'm gonna wait that, did the JSON data like we did. Then I'm gonna take that Pokemon data, the results. I'm gonna push that into the Pokemon data array. So the response that we get, and then I'm gonna map that Pokemon. So each Pokemon is gonna have the name of the Pokemon, like you see there, and the URL of the Pokemon. And I'm gonna catch the error, like we always do. Now I have a whole array with Pokemon names and URLs. So I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna get the Pokemon details. The details being the name, we already know, the type, and the photo of the Pokemon. So async function, now another one here. Same, doing the same things, but now I'm gonna actually print these three out. So the response.data.name. So we're implementing over that list, other array, sorry. Also, I'm gonna take the types. And again, I know this because I've looked at the API, and this is some guesswork, or not guesswork, but some trial and error, if you will, and to know exactly where the location of that information is. So in this case, I know types, the first entry of that, and the type, and it's type.name in that object. So again, you have to drill down a little bit to get that. So this is what I want to leave you with, is that you have to drill down sometimes to get information. It's not like all going to be right in the first object or right in the first value, or first key that you get it. And I'm gonna take the image. So this is on sprites and front default. So now if I go ahead and print this, drum roll, please. Of course, it's not working. Let me see, save it. Where are we? Let me see. Maybe this didn't run. Oh my! Oh, where are you? Why are you not working? Oh, didn't I call the function? Of course, yes. Got to call the function as well, people. So now I actually need to get this Pokemon. So I need to call of this function here, or this function, and that's going to get me that list. So great. Now we have this name, Bulbasaur, type, grass, and the image. If you click on this image, I'm not gonna go to it. It's a nice, cute picture of Bulbasaur, ready for our Pokemon app. So that was a lot of things today. A lot of things I gave you. So thank you for everyone for sticking around. You could be anywhere on the internet right now, but you're here with us, learning about APIs, arrays, loops, how that all connects, right? So it's really good. Do your katas, like I learned. Do your katas on arrays, loops, because then you're really good at working with APIs later on. Because again, you have to do a lot of drilling down to find the right values that you want. Sometimes in APIs, you do need to map. Let's say you want to push things, so knowing that like array, the spread operators is a really good thing. Mapping over those arrays is super important, and even some of the loop stuff is really good practice. Next time, we're going to cover React, which is super exciting, and all of the stuff that we have talked about is going to be very relevant still, right? It's not like we're going to throw away all of the code that we had made, but we're going to make it into React code. We're going to build out our front ends. We're going to connect those things. And again, because we've all done console.log, which is good. All right. We know the JavaScript's working, but let's actually like build some things out with React. So there's the link. So all of the resources that I shared with you, the Cloud Skills Challenge is there, the lesson for today, getting better at doing arrays and loops. And for that, I'm going to end it. See you all next week when we start doing React. I think it's called the React Intro to React, React Basics, or something like that. So we'll get into working on that. But love everyone that's been joining, all the participation, all putting up with Pokemon and Backstreet Boys. It's like bringing me back to the early 2000s, my childhood. So thanks for that. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening, morning, whatever, or whenever you're watching this. See you next week.